Welcome to Shauns Take, brought to you by the Keystone Sports Network. Here are your hosts, Shaun and Jim.
Hello and welcome to Shauns Take. I'm Jim Galante. He is Sean Gold. Sean, it's NFL Draft Week. This is like a holiday.
It is. It seems like we keep getting holiday weeks on here. We've had the Masters, playoffs, now draft season, and I've got my Lakers shirt on today because I got to rep my Lakers playing tonight. But we are talking about football today, so Laker fans, I'm with you in spirit today. But today is about the NFL because the draft is coming up, and it's going to be exciting to break this down.
It is NFL time, but I will tell you, I don't watch the NBA until it's playoff time, okay? Then just the intensity level ratchets up. It's more interesting. The other night I saw the Knicks play the Pistons. I saw like the last quarter of the game. Thrilling game. A lot of fun to watch. Something I don't think you'll see in the regular season. You will see in the playoffs. But like you said, this is NFL talk. This is draft talk, Sean. And it doesn't get better than that. And just real quick, what I love about the NFL draft, it's kind of like March Madness. If you bump into someone who's also a sports fan, you got to hear, did you do a bracket? What's your bracket look like? Who's your final four? Now, with the draft, it's draft conversation. And I have last weekend, holiday weekend, some friends of the family, guy who's a big Giants fan. So I get asked about Abdul Carter. I have a nephew who's a big Patriots fan. He's just hoping someone slips by that top three. He's hoping for Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I had bad news for him because I didn't think either one of them was going to slip. So that's where I'd like to start, Sean. Let's start at the top of the draft. The first three picks go to Tennessee, then the Cleveland Browns, and then the New York Giants. Is it essentially carved in stone? Cam Ward to Tennessee. The Browns take their pick between Carter and Hunter, probably Travis Hunter, and the Giants take the guy that's left over, which would be Abdul Carter.
I think so. I think it's the most logical explanation. The one shakeup, the one wild card that we could potentially see that I will say I don't think we'll see is, would the Giants consider taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3? And based off of how everything's looking, I think it's almost more realistic that they would take Hunter or Carter and trade back up to take Shedeur Sanders if they truly loved him that much, because I just don't know how you can sit at the number 3 pick and see two guys who have potential to be generational talents and say, you know what, we're not going to take him. I know you need to get your quarterback, but in this situation, I've got to go with Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. And I'll say for the record too, I think Cam Ward's a lock at number 1. Like you said, 2 and 3 are a little bit of a toss-up on which one's going to go where. It looks like Travis Hunter will be a Brown. It looks like Abdul Carter will be a Giant. But, Jim, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I am taking Abdul Carter because I think the duo of Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett would be one of the best pass rushing duos we have ever seen in NFL history if Abdul Carter really reaches the potential that we think he's going to reach. So that's what I want to see, is a Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter duo. It's tough to turn down Travis Hunter because he gives you 2 positions of value, but I think he fits the Giants really, really well. Him and Malik Neighbors then could be this really dynamic receiver room, and of course, Travis Hunter will play defense as well. But my wish in this is that Abdul Carter goes to the Browns because I just would love to see that wrecking machine of him and Myles Garrett together.
So it has nothing to do with what's best for the Browns. It's what Sean would like to see, which I'm with you. If you're just an NFL fan in general, that would be so much fun to see. But I think you hit it where the difference is, can Travis Hunter, who's telling teams, don't draft him unless you'll play him both ways, can you conceivably, as the Browns, fill 2 spots with Travis Hunter as opposed to 1 with Abdul Carter? But I don't think there's much doubt those 2 will be going 2 and 3, whichever way it is. For the Giants, they're put into that tough position where they're at that number 3 spot. You'd think if you need a quarterback, this is where you get them. It's unusual for any team to be drafting that highly, but I'm just not sure Shedeur Sanders is the guy worthy of that pick. And you have in the Giants the situation where they have not one but two quarterbacks that they brought in with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. They can get through this year. If I'm them, I go put in a piece that will help me win right away because, again, you've got a case there with a coach and a general manager who they need to win some ball games and they need to win this year. I'll give you one last rumor that came out that I loved. And this was, I'm in the Eagles territory. I'm an Eagles guy, as you know, Sean. How about this? This was the hypothetical. If Abdul Carter somehow made it to pick 4 and the Patriots, how about this as a trade? The Eagles would trade up to the Patriots, A.J. Brown, to be able to draft Abdul Carter. I don't think we'd get there, but how about that for a hypothetical?
Wow, that is it's funny I mentioned the Lakers earlier because this is a Laker fan type of scenario, looking at the improbable trades that all of a sudden everybody's on your radar. And that's what Howie Roseman has created in Philadelphia, because he has pulled off trades like this time and time again. I would not be a fan of giving up AJ Brown to move up, though. I think he's such an integral part of that offense, and having Abdul Carter on that defensive line in Philly would be incredible. But I don't think it's worth the drop off that you would then see offensively from Philly. And I mean, I'm a huge Devonta Smith fan, but he and AJ Brown is better than him himself alone. So I would not be a fan of that there personally, but the draft day drama would be pretty incredible if that were to happen. So top 3, I think it's pretty solidified. What's not solidified is Shedeur Sanders and where he's going to go. At one time, it seemed like heading into this past college season, he was the number 1 pick. And then he got out by Cam Ward. And now all of a sudden, he's not a lock to go number 2. He's not a lock to go number 3 to 2 teams that need quarterbacks. The Browns and Giants both do not have long-term answers at quarterbacks, yet it's seeming less and less likely that he's going to get picked there. So, Jim, where have you kind of seen him falling recently?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's the quarterback position is one of those players that if you're going to commit that high, that's a commitment for a face of the franchise type. And it seems pretty obvious at that 2-3 level, teams are convinced Shedeur Sanders is not that guy. So the question then becomes, how far will he fall? I've seen some that project him going all the way down and available, say, to the Steelers at 21. Don't think that's happening. I think the more predominant prediction is the Saints at number 9, where, it's a new regime there, fresh start. Is there a quarterback that they could build around? At number 9, Shedeur Sanders probably makes sense to the Saints. That's what seems to be the obvious one, Sean. I know you're a big Colorado guy, a big Shedeur Sanders guy. What do you think?
So let me tell you let's get to another Sean dream scenario about what could
Okay.
happen here. What I would love to see happen is whoever drafts Travis Hunter between the Browns and the Giants with the pick 2 or pick 3, then goes and trades back up to take Shedeur Sanders. So you get this quarterback wide receiver pairing that you had at Jackson State, that you had at Colorado, that you could then have once again at the NFL. Now, do I think this is a very likely situation to happen? No. But do I think that it makes sense for both teams if they can give up some capital? 100%. We've seen what happened when you reunited Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase together. Fireworks on offense. And for both of these franchises, the Browns and the Giants, who both need a spark to get back to relevancy, what better way could you sell some tickets than drafting Travis Hunter and then trading back up, maybe to pick number 9 where the Saints are, and taking Shedeur Sanders and saying, hey, we had this duo that was just one of the best duos in college football. We now bring them to the NFL. So that's my dream scenario. I will say I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Saints are a pretty realistic opportunity there. And if for some reason the Saints didn't want to jump in the quarterback market, I think the Steelers is, the other logical choice that everyone's looking at.
It does seem like Steelers at 21 would be the absolute lowest you would see Shedeur Sanders drop. I think the tough part to the Shauns take, the Shauns magical putting together Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders again is how could the Browns, after using their own first round pick at number 2, have the trade capital to get themselves back up into the top 10 again and say above the Saints, who are the most likely landing spot. You're probably talking, obviously the number 1 next year, your top second round pick, and maybe even number 1 and number 2 next year. You're a team that can't afford to give up that much draft capital. So I'm not sure your dream could come true there, Shaun. Nice thought, though. I'm sure Shedeur and Dion would probably love it if those two guys could get back together. All right, Shaun, enough of the the quarterback conversation. Let's flip over to the running back conversation. Now, running backs are always popular for the fans, and for many years, popular in the NFL draft. But that went by the wayside the last several years until we see something like the Saquon Barkley trade from the Giants and see what he did for the Eagles. And it's not just him. There were multiple running backs who made their comeback this year. Comeback of the running backs. Are we going to see that in this draft? It's the comeback of the valuing of running back, Shaun.
I think we definitely will. By default, I think we all know Ashton Gentry is going to go in the top 10 picks. I personally think that the Raiders at pick 6 is a great landing spot for him. It may be a little too early, but what better way to kind of kickstart this new era in Vegas? You got Pete Carroll, you got Geno Smith. Give him that running back. Give Pete Carroll that Marshawn Lynch that he had in Seattle that succeeded for so long. So I think that's the first, pillar to fall. And then Omarion Hampton, North Carolina's running back, is another guy who I think is going to go a lot earlier than people expect. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Cowboys at 12 take a shot at him. Their running back room is kind of non-existent right now. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears at 10 said, hey, we want another running back in this room, and went and took him. So it's very exciting. And I think, Ashton Gentry gets all the hype as he should, and he's going to be just electric his rookie year, but he's not the only back in this draft that's going to make some noise in their rookie year. So, look for 2 running backs to go, I think, in the top 20 picks of this draft. And I'd have to check the numbers, but that's not something we see very often. And I don't know how many times in the last 10 years we've seen 2 go in the top 20 picks. But I think, like you said, the run Saquon Barkley had this past season with Philadelphia reminded everybody that, if you have an elite running back, you have a very good shot at being a very competitive team in the NFL. And let's look at, other teams that went really far. Derrick Henry had such an impact on Baltimore this year. And it does show if you have a difference maker at the running back position, even in 2025, it makes a massive difference for your team.
I think, Shaun, that people are again realizing that the running back position can be a weapon in the NFL. It's not just you could plug and play any player. And at the top of the draft, to see a guy like Ashton Gentry go that high, that's the continuation of this evolution now. Again, the rebirth of the running backs. You mentioned the Cowboys maybe going as high as number 12 for another running back, like Omarion Hampton. You could just see Jerry Jones doing that type of pick, because that's what he does. He will take the flash over, the offensive lineman. That's his style. But I think it's also why you mentioned like the Bears at number 10. A lot of people project Tyler Warren as a guy who could go there to the Bears. As a Penn State guy who watched Tyler Warren play, not just this year, but the last couple years, and see how good he was. Those of us who saw him every year knew coming into this past season he would be special. Not sure anybody expected exactly what we got, but we knew he was a weapon. And that's the way I look also at several of these running backs. It'll be interesting in rounds 2 and 3. You see guys like the running back from Iowa, the 2 running backs from Ohio State. There are a lot of good ones. It'll be interesting to see where they go. And I think we are seeing the difference again. Like many of those running backs are going to be a factor going forward. I'm glad to see it, Sean, that we are getting the comeback of the running backs.
I am too, and it's nice that running back's truly a plug and play position in the NFL. There's some other positions that take a couple years to develop to NFL game. Quarterbacks usually, you see them really peak in year 3, and it's like, oh, they've got it figured out now. Running back's a position where, hey, you can take a really good running back in college, give him 200 carries in the NFL, and he's seeing a lot of success as long as he's got a decent offensive line in front of him. So I think, next NFL season, expect to see a lot of rookie running backs getting a lot of touches because this is, as you mentioned, a very deep running back class. Now, talking about the running backs, let's flip back to quarterback really quick. We both agree that Cam Ward's gone with the number 1 pick, that Shedeur Sanders is not going to fall out of the first round, it seems like. What about the next couple of options? There's guys like Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, who have kind of gained some traction since the combine, since pro days. Where do you read the room with these guys?
It's interesting. The couple names you mentioned, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shaw also is another one of those quarterbacks from Louisville that is talked about in this mix. And I got to believe at 21, if you're the Steelers, even if you maybe don't have a first round ranking for these 3 quarterbacks, you're probably going to take the one that stands out to you because they need to get a quarterback. And if they wait till the second round, they may be gone. So I think they have to make the move for the one they like the best. Me personally, I like Jackson Dart. And I kind of carry over this bias when I watch a guy play a full game and he impresses. A year ago, I saw him in a bowl game against Penn State, and he just shredded a Penn State defense that had several guys sit out, but still some good players that were on that defense, and he just shredded them. His accuracy was incredible. He played fantastic. It's fascinating, though. Is it a case, though, where maybe Jalen Milroe has the higher upside? And I've actually saw one mock draft that had the Steelers going with Milroe as their number 1 pick at pick number 21 of the first round. So it'll be fascinating to see who they decide. And the second part to this is, will there be any team that will look to trade up into that late first round? Even though most projections have these quarterbacks going in the second round, the advantage, Sean, if you get your quarterback, you get your guy in the first round, you have the ability to sign them for 5-year contract as opposed to the 4 years and at a reasonable number. Don't be surprised if you see somebody trading up. Watch like perhaps the Giants or the Browns, who have early second round picks, maybe don't have to use too much draft capital to get back into the first round, Sean.
I completely agree. I think there's going to be a very interesting, final 20 pick trade up scenario here with some of those teams that you just mentioned. And I'm really curious about the Steelers. I don't know what their plan is here. I don't know what how do they view Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe? I've seen both of their names, be popular choices to go there. So it's going to be interesting if both of those guys are there, assuming Shedeur Sanders is off the board as well at that time. If they go quarterback, or if they go another skill position, if there was somebody that they truly love that's still sitting there, and if they do opt to not draft a quarterback, then maybe it answers the question that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm not a huge fan for that. I don't think that, he's going to bring him to the promised land, but Pittsburgh's had a very confusing offseason. They did not go after anybody, and maybe there's a trade for Kirk Cousins that they're still, waiting to develop on, but they're a mystery team right now because they're not going to be terrible, but they're not going to be great. And if they want to look at next year's quarterback class headlined by Arch Manning and some other guys, they're not going to be bad enough to get a top 3 pick to take one of those guys. So, I'm very confused on where Pittsburgh's leaning. And I don't know that Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart are worthy of the 21st overall pick. But like you said, they need a quarterback, so you got to take one eventually. And I don't know. That's gonna be one of the most interesting picks for me in this draft because I don't know what direction Pittsburgh's trying to go in right now.
It has to come down to, I had an NFL guy tell me, and this was several years ago, when I don't know if you remember the draft with Baker Mayfield being the number one pick of the Browns, and there were four quarterbacks: Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and I'm trying
Sam
to
Darnold.
Yes, yes. And I for the Cleveland Browns, they had the first pick in the fourth, and I said, "Hey, take Saquon Barkley
Keystone
first
Sports
and
Network.
take whichever quarterback is left over." And the NFL guy said to me, "You don't do that. Quarterback is too important. There's got to be the guy that you like that you take." I think that's what it comes down to here for the Steelers. Are there any of those three that they could picture? Hey, this is our franchise quarterback. If not, you wait. So it will be fascinating to see there. All right, Shaun, one last topic to talk about with this draft. In fact, we could probably have 100 more topics, but what I'm curious about, and it's always the case, we all think of ourselves as being able to evaluate talent. These guys who are paid to do this every day as their profession, their livelihood, they don't know as much as we do, Shaun. So I'm curious, who are the guys that you're looking at that you're saying, you know what? The guys who do this professionally, they don't know what they're talking about. This is the underrated, under the radar guy, according to Shaun Gold, that in 3 years, people are going to say, we should have listened to Shaun.
Most definitely. Well, I've got two names for you, Jim, and let's see what you think about these as well. So my first one is a guy who's going to go in the first round, but I think he's going to go later than what maybe he should go at, and that's Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. Now, a lot of people probably haven't watched a lot of Marshall football recently, but to get 17 sacks in a season that's no mistake. So I think Mike Green is going to be a guy who can get after the quarterback. He's probably going to go in the 20s in the draft, and I think that when it's all said and done, he may end up being the best edge rusher in this draft class. There's some guys who are undoubtedly going to go before him in this draft, but I think when it's all said and done, Mike Green could be a guy who ends up really surprising some people. And again, to get 17 sacks in a season that's great for anybody in college, whether you're at the best program or the worst program. So I think that's right there is just an eye-popping number that comes out that shows, hey, he's got some raw pass rushing tools. And when he gets to the NFL and they really refine those, I think he may be a problem coming off the edge for opposing defenses. So that's my first kind of underrated prospect. And my second one, get a little more personal with this one. This is a guy, Jackson Hawes, who played tight end at Yale when I was there. Grad transferred to Georgia Tech last year, had a nice season at Georgia Tech, went to the NFL Combine in his pro day, and actually got ranked 15th amongst all tight ends for his athleticism score. He had a really good Senior Bowl, had good showings. He's got good size, 6'5", 250, ran a 4.8 40-yard dash. And I think he's a guy, I don't know where he's going to go in this draft, but I think whoever does end up taking him is going to get the rewards from him. I know what his work ethic is like. I know how bad he wants this and how hard he works at this and how diligent he is. And he has that prototypical 6'5", 250 build and a guy who can move. He's got good hands. He's not afraid to get in the trenches and block. So that's one of my more really underrated prospects here that I think in a couple years, people are going to be looking like, man, this guy is really good. And he's carved out a role for himself on an NFL team. So that's one that I really like. And, I'm saying that because I know him, but I've had multiple people throughout last season call me and say, this guy from Yale, he's at Georgia Tech now. He's good. I'm like, yes, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that he's having the success he's having now. So I think Jackson Hawes is definitely somebody who's going to make a name for himself in due time.
Those are two great picks, Shaun. I especially like having that personal relationship, being a teammate of a guy. And I think just the fact that he made his way from Yale to Georgia Tech is an indication that he's got the pedigree. He's already moved up within the college ranks. So that's a very good pick. Now, I don't have the ability to say these guys are teammates, okay, for my under the radar picks. But I will say I pick guys that I've seen play because I've watched every play of every Penn State game. And I'm going to give guys, and, one, two guys. No, I got like four guys, Sean, I want to throw at you. And I'm going to give you one who is a Penn Stater, and that's safety KJ Winston, who missed most of this season with an injury. But if you had seen him play in the 23 season,
Keystone
you knew how
Sports
special
Network.
he is. Now, the NFL folks, they know who he is, but they know he's coming off a serious knee injury. So that means second round, and I've even seen third round. Somebody is going to get him. And if he's 100%, it's going to be a steal, Sean. And he did, interestingly enough, at Penn State's Pro Day, he did run the 40, which surprised some people. Just the fact that he was willing to be timed in the 40 tells you he's getting his confidence and looking to be healthy. I'll give you a couple others. I'm going to go tight end also, like you, Harold Fannin from Bowling Green. Saw him play against Penn State. And if you remember, Bowling Green gave Penn State all they could handle in the first half of that game. Against Penn State, 11 catches, 137 yards. For the season, 117 catches, 1,555 yards, Sean. This is the guy who puts up the numbers. He has the size. He has the production. I know it's Bowling Green. Somebody's going to be happy to get him. Couple more guys. Again, guys I saw. I made reference to the Ole Miss bowl game against Penn State a year ago. Guess who Jackson Dart was throwing to? A wide receiver by the name of Trey Harris. Good size, 6'2", over 200 pounds. He lit up Penn State. I think he's really good, going to be a steal. And I'll give you one last name. How about this? I'm going to go offensive line, Sean. How about that? Donovan Jackson from the hated Ohio State Buckeyes. He was an all-conference, maybe even all-American guard. Ohio State's offensive line decimated with injuries. Guess what? He moves over to left tackle and still does the job there. So an NFL player with the capability of playing tackle or guard, I love that versatility. And Sean, he did it at the highest level. He did it with a national championship team, the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's Donovan Jackson, my other under-the-radar player, Sean.
I love them all, but I do want to highlight Donovan Jackson there. Getting offensive linemen in the middle rounds of the NFL draft, if you can get them there, such an advantage. Because we see good teams have great offensive lines. And so being able to find those gems when it's not hey, these are the top 3 projected offensive lines that are going to go in the first 20 picks is just incredible. And I really do believe that teams are built in the trenches in the NFL. You always find your receivers and your running backs, but if you don't have a great offensive line, it's hard to have a great quarterback because we've seen quarterbacks' developments get absolutely crushed by bad offensive lines. So I love that last pick for you there. And hey, you got to win in the trenches if you're going to win in the NFL.
And the versatility, guard or tackle, I will take that, Sean. All right, that's going to be it for our show. Sean, it went way too fast. Love talking draft with you. Enjoy the draft this week. It'll be a lot of fun. And how about this for an idea? Next week, we talk about the draft results. Hopefully, you'll join us again next week for that on Shauns Take.
Keystone Sports Network.